Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has given his first full-length interview since leaving Manchester United with Andy Mitten in The Athletic. I'm going to leave the link to the full interview in the comments below. But what I want to do in this video is react to a few key points that Andy spoke to Solskjaer about. He spoke about Cristiano Ronaldo, the signing of him, Jadon Sancho. He spoke about player power at the club, about players that refuse to train, about players that refuse the captaincy, about the problems that he faced, about Erik Ten Hag. Loads of stuff covered in a wide-ranging interview that I think offers a real bit of insight into the environment that Solskjaer had to deal with and the environment still that Ten Hag is trying to navigate. As I said, if you want to read the full interview with Andy Mitten, the link is in the description, but I'm going to run through some key points here, and I'm going to start with Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, for so many of us, Cristiano Ronaldo, and this is the way that Andy posed the question as well, he posed it as, well, you can read it here. There's a perception that among fans and some media that Ronaldo ruined your team, that he was a vanity buyer by United. I remember where I felt about it at the time. It didn't really make perfect sense in the progression of the team, but it was too good an opportunity to turn down for United. This is what Solskjaer said. It was a decision that was very difficult to turn down, and I felt we had to take it, but it turned out wrong. It felt so right when we signed him, and I think we can all agree with that. We all turned into like 7-year-old kids again when Ronaldo came in. But it didn't work out right. And I don't know whether Solskjaer has accidentally put this in the same sort of conversation or whether this is purposeful. But if you go down to the third paragraph there, you can see where he says this. When you have a group, you need everyone to put in the same direction. When things didn't go right, you could see certain players and their egos came out. Now, I don't know whether Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was relating specifically to Cristiano Ronaldo there, but it's something that I felt, certainly under Erik Ten Hag, and partly under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as well. Cristiano Ronaldo is the definition of a signing that, if you had a long-term vision at a football club, you probably wouldn't have made. But in the moment, hell yeah, bring him in. Ronaldo comes back, bang, scores 2 against Newcastle, and it felt so right. But if you had a long-term plan, there's no way that Ronaldo would have been part of it. And if it wasn't City going in for him, maybe we would never have gone in for him in the first place. But I'll always look back at that Ronaldo signing and say, man, what if we had invested that money elsewhere? And there were certainly plenty of other players that we could have signed, and Solskjaer speaks about them all. I'm going to speak about Jadon Sancho, though, next, because this is obviously an ongoing problem at Manchester United. We've still not got the most out of Jadon Sancho. Solskjaer speaks about him here, and he was asked whether he wanted to sign him. He said, yeah, I wanted to sign him. Manchester United will never sign a player the manager doesn't want. That's not the case everywhere. Jadon was put up as the #1 target for the right wing by the scouts. And then look what he goes on to say. He's immensely talented, and we haven't seen the best of him. I hope we do, but he prefers to play on the left wing, where Marcus plays. So we've got somebody who was put up as the #1 target for the right wing by the scouts, who actually prefers to play on the left wing. And it kind of makes you do a little bit of this. I remember at the time, I looked at Jadon Sancho at Dortmund and I thought, finally our right wing is sorted and resolved. But more due diligence might have just dug out the fact that Jadon Sancho actually prefers to play on the left wing. And then look, so often we're hearing this season about, oh, he's preferring Anthony and so much different treatment for other players. But maybe it's about Marcus. Maybe it's been about him on the left wing. Either way, Solskjaer confirming that Sancho prefers to play on the left. He coached him for a couple of years. He knows. So that's where Sancho wants to play. And he won't be playing there at Manchester United, not with Marcus Rashford there. But going back to what I was saying there about what could have happened if that Ronaldo money went elsewhere. And there were so many different places that it could have gone. We know full well that Solskjaer recommended Erling Haaland to Manchester United early doors. He was manager of Molde when Erling Haaland was there. United didn't do it. We know what happened. Declan Rice was another name linked with us. At that point, there were still conversations as to around it, whether Declan Rice was the right man or not. And he progressed massively in the 2 years after. And then Arsenal made a cracking signing. Moises Caicedo is one. It's written there. And this is, again, about long-term planning. We discussed Moises Caicedo, but we felt we needed players ready for there and then. Man United sort of operated that sort of policy. It was a bit of a Galactico-style thing. Sign established stars that can come in and make a big difference straight away. And those established stars never made the difference overall for a consistent length of time that we wanted them to. And we missed out on players like Erling Haaland, like Moises Caicedo. And we go down here and he speaks about other players. We wanted Jude Bellingham. We know we wanted Jude Bellingham. We brought him to the training ground. We tried everything, but he chose Dortmund, and no one can begrudge his decision there. And look, he would have signed Kane every day of the week, but it was my understanding was that he wanted to come. But with the club didn't have the budget, with the financial constraints from COVID, there was no bottomless pit. And it shouldn't be the case at Manchester United. Money shouldn't be an issue at our club. We are the third biggest club in the world. We have revenues in excess of 600-700 million. It's laughable that in this day and age now of Moneyball, and that's what football has become. I mean, football has always been about money, sure, but now more than ever. And these problems shouldn't be affecting Manchester United, but they do because of our owners. So, I mean, what if, man? What if, it feels like, I think I said this in my live stream, it's a bit like Wenger. You know, we could have signed Ronaldo, blah, blah, blah. We're talking about Bellingham could have come in, Caicedo could have come in, Rice and Haaland, and you look and you go, wow. With more long-term planning, with a sporting director with an actual vision of a long-term football club, these are the sorts of signings we would have been making instead of going, we need something for the here and now. Because the here and now didn't work, and we missed out on the future at the same time. But for me, this next part of the interview is probably the most, I don't know what word I'd use to describe it. Maybe impactful. That's what I would say. Certainly it did on me in terms of how I thought after reading. I don't know, I've kind of described that a bit weirdly. Let me just run into it, right? He was asked here, let's say, Ralph Rangnick came in after you were sacked and was critical of the club. Was that a slight against you? And he was just sort of speaking about that. He goes, no, look, you know, I told him when I gave my opinion on every player, things had soured, the collective had been lost, but it's this bit here. Some players felt they should have played more and weren't constructive to the environment. That's a huge sin for me. When I didn't start games, I wanted to prove to the manager he'd made the wrong decision. Now, a lot of players aren't like that. Agents and family members get into their heads and tell them they're better than they are because they have a vested interest. It is a disease of modern football. And for me, that's one of the most impactful things, as I said, that I feel Ole Gunnar Solskjaer spoke about. And two players jumped to my mind straight away there. I remember Jesse Lingard, and, you know, when he wasn't starting and he got angry and it turned into a bit of a horrible fallout. And he was getting loads of advice. I think his brother was his agent at the time. He got that loan move to, was it West Ham? Came back and then he rejected, what did he reject? Was it Forest loan? Can't remember what it was. No, he went on loan to Forest in the end. I can't remember what the next one was. But Lingard was hearing whispers in his ear. No, you're a million times better than that. Dean Henderson, another example. He was on 100 grand a week before he was even Manchester United's first choice goalkeeper. Harry Maguire. Look, and I've spoken about it so many occasions. It feels like the advice he gets and the word in his ear that he gets from his family members and agents is that, nah, man, you're the absolute best. You are the pinnacle. Do not listen to what your manager is saying. You listen to yourself. Look after number one. And that is a disease of modern football. Players now, and I've spoken about this as well, have so much power. Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, left Real Madrid. Real Madrid loses millions of followers. There are fans of football clubs and there are fans of players. And those fans of players dot around football clubs. So instead of just having one set of Manchester United fans, you've got a set of Manchester United fans and then a set of Cristiano Ronaldo fans or a set of Paul Pogba fans or a set of Martial fans who will speak completely differently from the player interest rather than what is best for the club, which causes a clash. And it is a massive disease of modern football, and it's something that is still hurting Manchester United. And this bit here in particular is probably the most damning thing that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said. He was asked, look, did you feel the players threw you under the bus? And he goes, no, not really. Some weren't as good as their own perception of themselves. I won't name names, but I was very disappointed when a couple turned down the chance to be captain. I was also disappointed when others said they wouldn't play or train because they wanted to force their way out. And that, for me, there is the most damning thing from this whole interview with Andy Mitten. The link is in the description, as I said. There were players there that just went to Solskjaer and said, I'm not training, mate. I want to get out of the club. He won't name names. He's saying, look, do you feel the players threw you under the bus? No, not really. But players refused to train. And some players turned down the captaincy of Manchester United. So, yeah, Ollie. I know like Ollie's a to the very end, Ole will be an extremely nice man. And I think players took advantage of that. And he's still, even 2 years down the line, he still won't name names. And he still won't throw the players under the bus. Those same players who refused to train for him because they wanted to force their way out of the club. That is just unforgivable. That's sackable. That's literally like it's literally not turning up to work. Because you don't fancy it. Because you want to force your way out. It's genuinely a sackable offence. And that's something that Solskjaer had to deal with. And you saw it in the way that it sort of declined towards the end. You saw that the collective wasn't there. And so, yeah, that's easily the most damning part of it. And when you speak about Erik Ten Hag and the problems that he's not really... I suppose, yeah, Andy was speaking about the problems that he's facing. You know, when you see what Erik Ten Hag is having to deal with, he said, look, I know what he's going through. It's a dream job, but it's difficult. Dealing with humans and all their problems and backgrounds, this isn't a computer simulation. Most are good professionals who want to do well, but some think about number one first. Most think of the club, but some think about number one first. And that's still an environment that Erik Ten Hag is trying to get rid of. I think he's done it in part, but clearly, it's still not done yet. And it will take time. It's not a case of being able to get rid of 20 players in one season and bring 20 players in. There is always a limit on what a club can do. And if you look at Chelsea, man, they tried to do it all in one summer, and that's not exactly worked either. It does take time. And I'm absolutely convinced that Erik Ten Hag is the right manager to take us forward if he has the right environment behind him. And that there, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer explaining that players genuinely just refuse to train. Some turn down the captaincy. He was speaking about the disease of modern football, about players thinking that they are better than they are, so therefore they won't necessarily listen to the coach when he says certain things. No, well, I'm not listening to you. I'm better than that. I'm better than you. Did that under Fergie, you would have got a lot of players did get booted. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, man, he was my favourite player growing up. It was either him or Giggs. But because I was crap at football, I was always a super sub. I wasn't particularly super, but I was a sub. So anytime I saw what Solskjaer did for United, it impacted me. I'd love to get the opportunity to sit down and have a chat with Solskjaer. I'll always pray. What happened with Solskjaer towards the end, I always felt that Solskjaer could have. He did when he came in from Mourinho. He changed the environment, sure, but did he have the? Was he capable as a manager of toppling the likes of Klopp and Guardiola? No, he wasn't. Did this sort of environment help him? No, he didn't. There's so many questions you can still ask, but that interview there with Andy Mitten, as I said, link is in the description, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer really cast some spotlight on some key issues at the club. He spoke about Ronaldo, he spoke about Sancho, he spoke about player power and, you know, some players feeling that they're a little bit too important compared to what they really are, and about how some players refuse training. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I thought it was a really interesting, fascinating interview. I wouldn't say it was a good interview, but it just highlights some things which still exist in our football club and that Erik Ten Hag is still trying to work his way through. You let me know what you think.